Hi there, everyone. This is my flipped classroom on the Renaissance in Italy. Through this screencast, I'm going to be giving you an overview of information that you would find in section 1 of chapter 1. You're going to view this before the next class, and when you come to class, we're going to be doing some other activities involving the Renaissance in Italy. The first thing I want to start with is, what does the word Renaissance mean? And it's French for rebirth. And it started in the 1300s, and it reached its peak around 1500s, where the Renaissance is going to spread to France, Germany, and England. Why Italy? Why is Italy the birthplace of the Italian Renaissance, or the Renaissance in Italy? And the first reason is that it was the center of remains from the Roman Empire. We've talked about Rome a couple of weeks ago. Italy in the 1400s had these ruins, these rich ruins of architecture, statues, coins. And for the ruins and statues today, you could still see them in Italy. The second reason is that it had city-states such as Florence, Milan, and Venice that had survived the Middle Ages and had grew into prosperous centers of trade and manufacturing. If you click on this link over here, it's going to bring you to a map, and you'll be able to see more clearly where these city-states were located. Florence, Milan, and Venice were located in the north of Italy. In the center, you had the Papal States, and in the south, you had the Kingdom of Venice. The last thing that why Italy was the birthplace of the Renaissance is that it had a very wealthy merchant class who had political and economic power. These individuals, and the word individual is going to be important here, stressed education, individual achievement, and supported the arts financially. One of those people who stressed individual achievement was the Medici family of Florence. They were into banking primarily. They had banks in Italy and other businesses such as mining and textile manufacturing. One of the significant people from the Medici family was a man named Lorenzo the Magnificent. He was an architect. He was a businessman, as well as, again, someone who supported the arts financially, which leads us to the term patron. A patron is a financial supporter of the arts. Even today, there are patrons who support the arts as well. Now, the next thing we want to talk about, what was the Renaissance? What was this period in world/European history? And the first thing we should think about is this, is that it was a new world view. Unlike the medieval scholars, which we talked about the Middle Ages last week, who focused on life after death, life in the afterworld, these people during the Renaissance, they were individuals who focused on the here and the now, or the present. All they were concerned with is their lives in the present day. Yes, they did think about life after death, but the here and now and the present came first. You also had, as I mentioned to you, an emphasis on individual achievement. The Renaissance ideal of the individual achieving talents in speaking, in sports, as well as being able to read and write literature. And the last thing what we have here, why or what was the Renaissance, was a spirit of adventure. Explorers such as Columbus, writers, which we'll talk about in a moment, artists as well, and scientists in the 1600s we'll talk about in a couple of weeks, such as Galileo. Now, there's a word here that you may not have heard of before. The word is humanism. And if you look at the word itself, you look at and you can find the root of the word human. Again, focused on worldly subjects rather than religious issues. And what I'd like you to do for the next class is I would like you to take your textbooks, and I would like you to define what the term humanities means, because it relates directly to the word humanism. You can download this PowerPoint, and you can add that information and save it into your Google account, and we can access it in class through the Chromebooks. Now, one early humanist that we're going to be talking about a little bit more in the next class is a man named Francesco Petrarch. And there's a picture of him on the bottom right. He was an early Renaissance humanist. And what he did was unique is that he went around and he located and assembled a library, a very large library of Greek and Roman manuscripts. And that's the idea here, is that the Renaissance is going to draw ideas from ancient Greece and Rome. Now, what is also important to consider here about the Renaissance in Italy is that it was a golden age in the arts, where you have people who are concerned about creating art that represents the human, the individual as who they are. You have a sculptor known as Donatello. You have a new technique which is known as, or techniques known as perspective, and we'll talk about that in a moment. And you have women artists, such as Sofonisba Anguissola. She was an Italian noblewoman. She was a court painter to Philip II, and she also painted pictures of the merchants. And you have architecture, such as the dome in Florence, the Duomo, by Filippo Brunelleschi. And if you click on this link on your own time, you'll be able to see Rick Stevens in Europe, who will talk about this dome by Filippo Brunelleschi, who won a competition among the different artists, architects, and thinkers in Florence in the designing of this dome at the top of the cathedral in Florence. And as well, in your book, and we will talk a little bit more especially about Leonardo da Vinci in the next class, we have three geniuses of Renaissance art. We have Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, and the last one being Raphael. Now, again, if we look at, this is a classic painting involving perspective. This is the School of Athens by Raphael. And as you can see by the yellow line there, you have the vanishing point, where things will appear to get much smaller. But as you move away from the vanishing point, following the red lines, images or background becomes much larger. You almost have to think along the lines of looking at a entrance to a tunnel far away, how far away it is and how small it looks, but as compared to your immediate surroundings. So this is something that the Renaissance artists are going to use. They're going to use perspective, as again Raphael has done with the School of Athens. This painting today exists in the Papal Library in the Vatican. It's not open to the public to view necessarily, but there are many, many pictures online about the School of Athens by Raphael. Now, in addition to the artists, we also had Italian Renaissance writers. And one thing that we want to keep in mind here is this was a literature of, and I put this in quotes, how-to books that appeared to help ambitious men and women. Again, the Renaissance is focusing on the individual who wanted to rise in the Renaissance world. And one person, and again, what I like you to do is I like you to take your textbook and look up who this person is, was a man named Baldassare Castiglione. Baldassare Castiglione, and he is one of these Italian Renaissance writers. The other person that we want to consider here is Niccolo Machiavelli, who is probably the most popular of Italian Renaissance writers and the author of a book known as The Prince. It was a how-to book for rulers on how to maintain as well as gain power. And in the next class, in addition to doing something involving a Renaissance artist, we're going to be talking a little bit more about Machiavelli. So what you have here today is you have a general overview of background content knowledge on the Renaissance in Italy. As I said to you in the next class, and you should be prepared for this, we're going to be doing activities involving Da Vinci as well as possibly Machiavelli. You should also be aware of the fact that when you come and see me for the next class, I'm going to be giving you a formative assessment on the information that you have viewed through this screencast. If there's anything that you do not understand with this presentation, please let me know. I'm here, as I always said to you, to help.